Today we're looking at a blue-black ink by Atramentis Blue Black. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that if you're only interested in certain parts, you can skip around. But if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram. And if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Jinhao 51A, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to standardize some of the writing sample, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, more papers are tested, and they'll show up a bit later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the stub, which is darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 17 seconds to dry. And the scrubbies show us no color variation. How about Tomoe River? No bleeding and normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Again, the extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 15 seconds to dry. The medium is darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub, no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 24 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both, still show us no color variation. And Rhodia, no bleeding or ghosting. The 1.1 with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine still quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Medium, still quite a bit darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub, no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 18 seconds to dry. And the scrubbies still show us no color variation. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this brown that works its way pushing up and then into a nice blue. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And that brown formed a very definite line on the bottom, really showing that we're expecting some kind of resistance with it. And then it pushed its way up darker than it did in the original chromatography, but the blue is very much the same, which means you expect the brown to stay and the blue to go. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I go immediately to the lowercase h. The blue that we expect to be able to move is blurring out that H, and I wouldn't use it as a note taker if I highlight. Water's reactivating and lifting the blues, but leaving the browns behind. So water's not enough. We have the same problem when it comes to pen flush. They very much look the same, although the brown is a little bit lighter in the pen flush than it was with the water. 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the page. It leaves a very, very light brown staining on the paper behind. If you have to use 1/3 bleach solution to get this out of your pen, just make sure that you flush your pen with water immediately after. I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I'll link that somewhere here. And for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Put the data onto a bell curve or standard deviation for it to be easily understood. The Atramentis Black Blue has a viscosity of 2.53, making it normal. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. I find this by using my writing samples that were done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. The Atramentis Black Blue has an average dry time of 16 seconds, making it a still normal. Instead of finding inks that look like the Atramentis Black Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now I wanted a nice orange with this, and I went with Elixir's Siloso Sunset. The second writing sample is done on Life, Apica CD, and Franklin Christoph paper. Here we're looking at Life paper. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine, as has been the case, is much lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. The medium is much darker than the extra fine, just slightly lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 13 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation. How about Apica CD notebooks? We have no bleeding. Yeah, the scrubby is coming through, but I'm putting it on stupid thick. No real ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine, quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 6 seconds to dry. Medium, quite a bit lighter than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we're not getting it. Last up is Franklin Christoph notebook papers. Now we get a bunch of bleeding spotting that occurs all over it. I wouldn't be happy with this in a full notebook. It would stop me from using the back of the page. It might not stop you, but there's not a lot of ghosting that's occurring with it. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine, quite a bit lighter than the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 5 seconds to dry. The medium, quite a bit darker than the extra fine. Same tone as the stub, just like has been the case all the way through these. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. 7 seconds to dry. The scrubbies still show us no color variation, and we still get none. And that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of the Atramentis Blue Black? In general, it is too dark a blue black for me. As I've said, I like it to be right in the middle, not leaning too far blue or too far black. This one leans very, very black. However, as a blue black, it also has an interesting quality where it seems to have a bit of a teal come across every now and then in some of the writing. Very interesting for that. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? I found that a dry, fine pen put down the ink so that I could really see that teal quality that's coming through. It's very interesting because it's so unusual in blue blacks that it makes it stand out and makes this a much more enjoyable ink for me. I'm going to remind you that I'm here every day with a new ink review. Thanks for watching.